Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have two stories for you, both with epic updates. Before we start that, if you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It's completely free and you can always change your mind later. Alright, on to the stories. Let's jump right in. This story comes to us from ThrowRA Indecisive Huss. My 23 female, husband 25 male, asked for a divorce, then changed his mind hours later. Background: we've been together for 2 years, married for 1. We are both in our early 20s. The night of the bullcrap, we'd had an argument about the distribution of chores that I think triggered it. I thought it wasn't fair that I was doing the majority of the housework on top of being a full-time student at university and having a job. He seemed to think the chore distribution was fair and that I was overreacting. We came to a solution after all the bullcrap I'm about to tell you about occurred, but essentially, I was feeling overwhelmed and unheard, and he was feeling stressed and confused as to why I thought this was a problem. Later that night, we're discussing the situation again, and I express how it feels like he's not listening to me and how distant he's been lately. Then he says there's a reason for the distance, and I ask him to tell me why. He says that he thinks we moved too fast. He doesn't know who he is, and he wants a divorce. He says he cares about me, but he doesn't love me, and that he's been feeling this way for a while. Now, I've promised myself since years ago that I would never try to make someone stay with me if they don't want to. So as much as this hurt, I said, okay. I cried, he cried. I did ask if he wanted to try couples therapy before divorcing, but he said no. We decided to sort out details in the morning. I grabbed some blankets to sleep on the couch, and he went upstairs to bed. In the midst of my sitting on the couch crying and looking up apartments, what felt like hours later, I hear him get up and come to the living room. He sits down next to me and just says, "I effed up so bad." I freeze when I hear this because I've barely processed the reality of what just happened, and I can already see where he's going next. I ask him to elaborate, and he says he doesn't want a divorce, that he doesn't know why he said that, and he's feeling the most regret he's ever experienced in his life. He says that he realized he effed up, and I don't have to take him back. At this point, I've experienced so much emotional whiplash that I'm completely numbed out. I'd already cried all the tears I could. Now was just sitting there next to my sobbing husband and saying I'd take him back even though I'd barely processed the fact that he wanted to divorce me. I told him I wanted couples counseling and for him to get individual therapy, and he agreed. I've asked him about individual therapy in the past, but he never wanted to until now. It's days later now. I've gone through all the stages of being mad at him, depressed that my marriage almost ended, insecure about myself, accepting the reality, feeling love for him, feeling numb, cycling through all these emotions over and over again at random. We're searching for a couples counselor, but a lot of them have a wait list right now. So in the meantime, I just want to know if anyone has been in a similar situation. Does it get better? Does the trust ever come back? I feel like I can't trust him at all now. When he touches me, I freak out sometimes because that's not the comforting feeling I'm used to when he touches me. It's the feeling like he's suffocating me. I want to be here for him and help him through whatever mental crap he's going through, but this has been affecting my work and my school. I left my dream school for him. I can't just keep prioritizing him above everything else when he clearly doesn't do the same for me. And yet, until now, he was doing the same for me. He's always been so sweet, buying me flowers, making dinner, going out of his way to make time for us. And before you scream abuse, please know I've been in abusive relationships before, and they felt nothing like this. He's not like those guys. This is the first time he's ever done something like this. I just don't know how we can recover. Any advice about how to get through this would be appreciated. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Naive Selection 7113. It says, my wife and I went through some awful, terrible, why don't you guys just split stuff. But we made a promise to each other with our premarital counselor after he taught us this. You never say the D word, unless you mean it, because once you say it, you can never really take it back. You will always remember it as an option. You can always run or threaten or taunt with it. The day it becomes a household word, everything you worked for is dead, and one of you needs to leave. Don't say it even once if you don't mean it. Now, was he being wildly hyperbolic? Yes. Did it help us get through the worst of things? Also, yes. I'm not saying your marriage is over, but the person you pour all your love and care into told you he says he cares about me, but he doesn't love me, and that he's been feeling this way for a while. And I don't see the way past this statement. I had days where I didn't like my wife, but I've never had one in 11 years of marriage where I didn't love her. She is my world and always will be. I wish you nothing but happiness and fulfillment, OP. Big hugs. Another commenter down below called PBD1996 said, personally, I think you need to be single and work on yourself. If you got married a year into your relationship, that means you were engaged within just a few months of knowing him. Now you're sobbing over this man and taking him back in the same breath 2 hours after he said it was over. Also, just because he regrets what he said doesn't mean he didn't mean it. There was definitely truth behind his statement, "We got married too fast." There seems to be a lot of codependency in this relationship on both sides. OP responded to this one and said, I think you might be right, it really effing hurts. OP, I see two scenarios here. The first one is he said it because he meant it, and your relationship really needs to be over. In the second scenario, he said it, but he may not have completely meant it, but he was using it to try and hurt you as much as he could. Now, obviously we don't know all the other details of your relationship, only what we've read here, but I want to say if I was in this situation, I would be looking for my exit strategy as soon as possible, because you don't want to be spending your life with somebody who's either A, willing to hurt you like that, or B, doesn't love you anymore. Alright, OP updated this one, let's get into that now. OP's update is titled, Update, my 23 female, husband 25 male, asked for a divorce, then changed his mind hours later. 1 year ago, I, 24 female, made this post asking for advice on how to continue with my relationship after my now ex-husband, 26 male, betrayed my trust by telling me he wanted a divorce out of the blue, and then changing his mind just a couple hours later. As stated above, he is now my ex. Those of you who said that he would repeat the same behavior again, you were right. On New Year's Day 2024, he said he wanted a divorce, packed a bag, and left to a motel, then came back hours later. I'll admit, I was a wreck that day. I asked him if this was just going to be like last time, and he said no. I asked him if he felt mentally okay, and he said he felt fine. I got on my knees and begged this man to stay, not my proudest moment, and he looked at me with empty, vacant eyes and just left. I was in tears for a couple hours, but then I opened this app to try to distract myself and saw he had made a now deleted please don't go looking for his account post on the divorce subreddit about how he left me and felt bad but didn't regret it. Then I went from depressed to furious. I called my landlord and told him that I was getting a divorce and needed his help in changing the locks. My landlord was very understanding and helped me do so. A few hours later, I heard a knock on the door, and when I opened it, my ex-husband was standing there. I didn't even get a chance to tell him to leave because he immediately collapsed into my arms, sobbing. The first coherent words to come out of his mouth were, "You're not going to take me back, are you?" Reddit, I would love to say that I rejected him right then, but I didn't. Even after all of this, I was still hooked into his web of manipulation. So instead, I sat down with him and had a long discussion about how much he hurt me, how in the middle of working to rebuild the trust that had been broken between us, he completely destroyed any progress that had been made, and found a way to make that distrust even worse. I don't remember the details of what he said, but he always knew what to say to get me to feel sorry for him. The night ended with me saying I would take him back. He was smiling, saying he'd never felt so hopeful. He wrote me a love poem that night for the first time in years. Meanwhile, I had never felt so broken, and I told him that after he said he felt so hopeful. He shrugged it off and said I'd feel better in the morning. I did not, in fact, feel better in the morning. During the next few days, while I was trying to pick myself back up, study for finals, and continue going to work as if nothing was wrong, he went back and forth every day on whether or not he loved me, whether or not he wanted to be married to me. He said he thought he loved the idea of being a husband more than he loved me. My last straw was when I reached out to one of his childhood friends, who I had interacted with a few times, and thought I could trust to be honest with me, and asked him if he had ever noticed any red flags in my ex-husband's behavior in his past relationships, or behavior towards women in general. This friend assured me that he had never noticed anything of the sort. I thanked him and asked if he could please not tell ex-husband I asked that, since I was afraid of what he might do. When my ex-husband came home from work that day, I could immediately tell he knew. He opened the front door so forcefully. He sat down on the couch next to me, told me he knew, and said in a low and almost growling tone of voice, "But I know you didn't mean any harm by it." I was frozen in fear and couldn't say anything. But then he grabbed my face and turned my head to look at him, and his eyes looked so cold, and he said again, "You didn't mean any harm by it, right?" I nodded and forced myself to answer, "Right." And I knew in that moment, this man would hurt me if I didn't find a way out of this relationship. If I didn't hurt myself first with how bad my mental health was getting after dealing with him insulting and belittling me day after day. I was genuinely starting to spiral into a dark place I hadn't been to in years. The next day, while he was at work, I packed a bag, wrote a note telling him I'm leaving, and that I want his stuff out of the house when I get back. Left the note on the counter with my ring, and spent the night at my mom's. It is an uncontested divorce, filing by mail, and should be finalized in April. I started the paperwork at my mom's house that first night of separation. Since ending my relationship, I have gone to therapy and realized just how abusive and manipulative my ex-husband was. I also understand how broken he is, but being mentally unwell is not an excuse for abusive behavior. What he did to me was abuse, and I'm not afraid to say that anymore. I have reconnected with old friends and made new ones. I have started doing things that I love again, things he never wanted me to do, like wearing red lipstick or eating mint-flavored things and going to concerts. I realized I never want to be married again. I've discovered my polyamorous identity and have begun to explore this side of myself. I have plans to move out of my hated hometown that he had dragged me back to. I feel so much more joy, freedom, and self-love than I ever did when I was in a relationship with my ex-husband. I won't be using this account anymore after this, as I have no need to, but I want to thank this community and the other Reddit subs that I've participated in. If I had never made my original post, I don't think I would have realized just how awful my ex-husband treated me. Thanks to the support of the hundreds of voices telling me I deserve better, I realized how true that statement was. I deserve better, and now I have better. I also want this update to be a beacon of hope to anyone who has found themselves in a similarly emotionally and verbally abusive situation. Life is so much better when you leave. There is hope, there is a light on the other side of the pain. Thank you again, Reddit. I am finally free. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Rana Iyer. It says, "That bit about you not meaning any harm, OP, was frankly chilling. All the BS he put you through, good on you for leaving that manipulative butthole. Wishing you lots of healing and all the best in the future." Another commenter down below called Suspicious Mango 359 said, "I'm glad you got out, but I'm sorta curious as to why he didn't want you to eat mint flavored things." OP responded to this one and said, "He didn't like the taste of mint and wouldn't kiss me after. Same reasoning for not wanting me to wear red or bold lipstick, or any lipstick really. He wouldn't kiss me if I wore it because he didn't want to get lipstick on him. Even the lipsticks that were transfer proof, and I showed him how they were transfer proof, he wouldn't kiss me afterwards. I feel so confident when wearing red lipstick, and I love the taste of mint. And I honestly wonder now whether he really was that afraid of getting lipstick on him, or whether he just didn't like how happy I was wearing it. I have worn red lipstick nearly every day recently. So many people in the comments for part 1 predicted correctly that he was going to do this again to her. It was going to be held over her head as something that he could use as a power move to control her. OP, you may have held on too long, but that's okay because you are out now. You made the choice, you got away from the of X, and all I can say to you is congratulations. I hope life is all you want it to be from here on out. Do everything that makes you happy, and don't worry about trying to make somebody else happy all the time. This story comes to us from ThrowRA Chef 162. Will I be the butthole for telling my husband I'm not in love with him anymore after I had a brain injury? Long story short, I was in a car accident. The other driver did a hit and run. Sentencing is taking a lot longer than I expected, but my lawyer said he's probably going to have to do a lot of community service. I ended up needing physical therapy. I had a brain injury, and my neuro said that I would have some challenges. I am in PT. One of the things they said I would face is differences in mood and behavior. I haven't been moodier. In fact, my friends and family say I'm basically the same as before, but a little slow to get things. But the thing is, I don't love my husband anymore. He feels like a stranger to me. It's not like I'm amnesic, but I don't feel connected to the memories I have with him. I don't know why I loved him so much. Yes, he's attractive, but he's boring and expects me to worship him. He's also obnoxious and self-obsessed. I feel like I was the one dragging the relationship in the past. I felt like past me was way more in love with him than he was with me. And objectively, I don't know why I should care about him. I don't want to go on dates with him, or hang around, or do whatever I used to do with him. I've told him I feel a bit disconnected with my memories and past emotions, but I haven't told him that I don't love him anymore. I've talked about it with a psychiatrist, and she said this wasn't uncommon among patients. I told my friend, and she insisted I should tell him how I feel honestly. Honestly, I may not like my husband, but I feel like that would be cruel. Would I be the butthole for telling my husband I don't love him after my traumatic brain injury? Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Lengthiness Wonderful. It says, that's a tough position. I personally would, because I've promised to be completely transparent with my husband, no matter how much it may hurt. But this may be an unpopular opinion. Before talking with him though, I would confide in a close friend who knows you and your partner well. See if they viewed it similarly, or if this is just a perspective change. When you talk to him, I would let him know exactly what you said, how you don't feel connected to your memories with him, and how you feel of the memories looking back at them. His response may help you form new memories of and with him, and it would bring light to how he viewed those memories. That might help you connect, or it may give you the clarity that this is how it's been. Either way, I think it's best for him to know. OP responded to this one and said, I've told it to a close friend. She was the one that urged me to tell him everything honestly. However, I get the feeling that she doesn't really like my partner, so I might be doing something wrong. Even if I don't love him, I feel bad for hurting his feelings. OP, there really needs to be a discussion here between you and your husband, but you need to handle this with some care. Let him know that your brain injury has changed you, and that you can't be who you were, or who you were with him, and you now have a completely new perspective on the relationship. It's just not going to work out. I just would make sure you don't go in there telling him everything you don't like about him now, and just say that it's you and you need to move on. Alright, OP updated this one, let's jump into that now. This is titled, Update, Will I Be the Butthole for Telling My Husband I'm Not in Love with Him Anymore After I Had a Brain Injury? I talked with my husband. I don't want to hurt his feelings, and I wanted to fall back in love with him. I sat him down and told him that I felt disconnected from my own emotions and past with him. That my memories with him, like I was reliving a movie, not my own life. He guessed that I wasn't in love with him, and he sobbed and begged me not to leave him. It was heartbreaking, and I reassured him that I wasn't going anywhere. I wanted to build up my emotions again and reconnect with my past memories about him. So we decided I would go back to the doctors to figure out how I can do that. And in the meantime, we would go on dates where he was trying to win me over again. Some have asked me what kind of behaviors I didn't like. When I was in the hospital, he would always crawl into bed and cram me into the corner. At our date, he talked through the entire movie and had his flash on when he was taking pictures of me. I didn't ask him to take pictures, he just likes taking ugly pictures of me. He complains a lot. When we were at the restaurant, he kept complaining about the food he ordered to the waiter. He pokes me a lot. He also whines, and he made me eat dessert even if I don't want to. And he never stops talking. But I focused on the bigger things. He's very attentive and affectionate towards me. He likes to buy me little gifts that he makes me try, and he was at my side the entire time, even if he did get kicked out by the nurses for annoying them. I know I can rely on him to be there for me, which is the most important thing. At the end of the date, we actually slept together for the first time since my accident, which was less than a year ago, but it had been a couple months since I was cleared to have nookies. We hadn't really been romantic and intimate, so it really did feel like I was with an annoying best friend, but I wanted to fall back in love with him. We used to be frequently intimate before my accident. This entire paragraph is very embarrassing to write, so please skip if you are like me and easily embarrassed by PDA. He's actually incredible, and I swear I fell back in love with him for a few seconds. I honestly am much more inclined to ignore all of his annoying habits or even find them cute. We slept together in the morning too, and the second day of dating went a lot better. I'm not fully in love with him yet, and I want to reforge the deeper connection, because I know I loved him for a lot more, and I do not want my affection for him resting solely on one thing. I've started a journal of all the things I like and love about him. Hopefully, it gets filled soon. OP added an edit down at the bottom. It says, edit, to answer a few questions I got, yes, it was a movie theater. The other moviegoers were not happy. This isn't new behavior. He always talked a lot and was in my personal space even before my accident. When I was recovering, the nurses kicked him out for annoying them, but they let him back in after a bit. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Brief Association 8436. It says, he might be annoying, but man, he's one heck of a trooper. That man sure loves you. I'm glad you're trying. I hope you guys can get the old spark back fully. Keep being very open and honest. Communicate all of your feelings. It can't hurt, and it likely will help for him to know everything. Best of luck to you both. I hope to see an even better update in the future. Another commenter down below called Captain Starkiller said, I don't mean to insult you by saying something obvious to an adult, but I feel it's worth bringing up. All people do crazy, annoying things. Falling in love isn't about finding the perfect person. It's about finding a person who you can share a common destiny with. It's about appreciating their unique qualities while tolerating their annoyances, having the humility to appreciate that we all have downsides, and there are things about you they hate and tolerate as well. Love is choosing to accept those things. Love also isn't a feeling. Love is choosing to respect and appreciate someone. This is why some people fail at marriage. They decide they don't love their partner anymore, and their relationship isn't making them happy. Everyone falls in and out of love. Everyone goes through phases. Everyone changes, and you have to put effort into getting to know your spouse over time, again and again. Okay, so retracting some of my comments from the first part, OP, you're working on it, and that's wonderful. And it sounds like he's trying to work on it as well, even though he does have some annoying tendencies that you were sure to point out in that one paragraph. OP, I just want you to remember going through this whole thing that you are not obligated to stay in this relationship. If you don't feel the same way about this guy anymore, then you don't need to be with this guy anymore. I do have the utmost respect for you trying to work it out and trying to rekindle that relationship. I just hope you do what's best for you in the future. Did you know every KCC video is also produced in podcast form? Search for Karma Comment Chameleon on every major podcasting platform. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.